watching the world's most intense job interview. It's Dana White's Contender Series.
Future stars are vying for that UFC contract. They have a chance literally to change their lives forever.
After the long hours in the gym.
Oh, that's it! That is it!
After the years of grueling training.
What determination they have.
After a lifetime pursuing hopes and dreams. There comes the moment where a contender can make dreams come true. 100 fighters.
Welcome to the Contender Series. These fighters know what gets them to the big show.
10 nights.
One shot and it is over. Wow.
Oh, he's out!
That's it. Action-packed.
One shot to impress the boss and earn a UFC contract. This is Dana White's Contender Series.
Tuesday night in a scorching hot Las Vegas, and if you're an MMA junkie, you know what that means. It is time to get inside the UFC Apex for Dana White's Contender Series. That's where we are right now. John Morgan, Dan Tom alongside me for another week of Dana White's Contender Series. Of course, that airs at the top of the hour on ESPN+. And Dan, man, week 6 of this season, this third season here, we have seen some talent. 16 contracts awarded already so far, and I think we've got another great lineup tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of talking about it before the show, not to tip any hands, but it's a live night on either side of the action. It's going to be one of those nights where no matter who the odds are in the favor, you can kind of throw those away for a lot of these matchups, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, no question about it. 6 of the 10 fighters that we're going to see tonight have undefeated records. I always like to see the undefeated. It just adds a little bit something extra to it. You know, a prospect as they're developing. And if you add up the combined records of everybody on here, 60 wins versus just 6 career losses, that is a 90.9% winning percentage for the careers of these up-and-coming fighters. To me, on paper, it looks like it's going to be fun. I think we're going to see multiple contracts awarded again. I feel like it's something that we've done. We've seen as many as 5 awarded on one of the episodes. I think we're going to see multiple tonight as well.
Yeah, again, this is an entry-level show, and not to sound as a negative to say entry-level fighters, but these guys are playing at a high-limit table, and that's what makes it so exciting, right? You said with the records there.
I dig it. All right, let's start looking at this card. We kick it off in the heavyweight division. Rodrigo Nascimento versus Michael Martynuk. International flavor here. We've got Brazil versus the Czech Republic. I want to get your take on this one because I'm intrigued by this. Okay, Rodrigo Nascimento comes to us with a 6-0 record out of Brazil, right? 2 knockout wins, 4 submission wins, so a little bit grappling heavy on his resume. He's won by Kimura, he's won by armbar, he's won by triangle, he's won by rear naked choke, so he's some variety in his grappling attacks. 5 first-round finishes. I always like the first-round finishes on the regional stage. But his opponent's records, 7-5. Okay, so he hasn't fought very many established fighters. He also hasn't fought since October 2017. He's had a layoff. Now, Michael Martynuk on the other side, 5 knockout wins. He's got a 7-0 record overall, 1 submission as well, 3 first-round finishes. But his opponent's record's 22-9. So he's faced a little bit more established competition. The reason I set all that up is because I'm interested. This thing has been bet down to pretty much a pick-em at this point. I mean, Martynuk opened as a big favorite, and to me, looking at those stats on paper, I kind of understand why, but the action came in and got it down to pretty much even. Give me an idea. What did you see out of these guys? Do you think that's justified?
Yeah, this was crazy because a lot of times I like to look at the tape, John, before I look at the odds, and I did that here, and to me, I thought Martynuk should have been the favorite, so to see him at dog money was surprising. I checked back in later today, and like you said, the money keeps coming in, depending on what house you're looking at, of course, on that dog money on Martynuk, who, again, I'm not going to pose as someone to tell you where to put your money as a gambler or anything, but again, in my opinion, one of the more live dogs, whereas Nascimento, we talk about this, John, this invisible math we do here on the show. The commentators have to do with the UFC as well, because again, we had to fill in the gaps where we see. And I didn't see any, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu accolades. I couldn't see a lot of tape, but the submissions you labeled off were a lot of submissions you have to get, like triangles, kimuras, from a non-dominant position. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of dangerous when you get to the
Great point.
The heavier level at a heavyweight at the top level. But I watched this guy's grappling footage because it was some of the only footage I could get, and he moves really well for a heavyweight. So that's going to be really interesting because Martynuk, he's a southpaw who can swing. He's got all your weapons that a southpaw shouldn't leave home. He's got the check right hook, the hard left hand, and those heavy left kicks to the body, right? But this guy seems to be a wrestler who loves to get on top, maul. He'll take the back. He can float really well. So he also is athletic nimble for a heavyweight. So we could actually see one of those rare grappling, fun, stylistic matchups at heavyweight of all divisions.
That'll be fun. Martynuk is a former hockey player and a bouncer, so that tells you the type of, not that you can generalize, but you hear somebody as a hockey player and a bouncer, I think you know what to expect.
I was distracted by the beard, John. I mean, let's be honest. He looks like the Czech Republic Travis Brown, if we're being honest
right.
here.
He goes by the nickname Blackbeard for very obvious reason. It was funny, the bio sheet that they gave us, they asked him the origins of his nickname Blackbeard, and he was like, the black beard that I have.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
It's not very hard to tell. All right, well, let's get into this as far as the heavyweight matchups. Every time we have a heavyweight matchup, we say they've kind of got a leg up, right? Because the heavyweight division is the thinnest division in mixed martial arts. So it looks like, I would say, one of these guys potentially fighting for a contract here. Do you have you said you kind of were surprised, Martin. I mean, do you think this is the right pick? Do you think Martynuk is the guy to win here?
He's going to be my pick. We'll see if it's the right pick. But what I was interested in this, we were talking again before we're airing here, is that not only is there a lot of invisible math you have to do with Nascimento because there's not a lot of footage on him, but the footage I saw from Martynuk, to where if he wins and doesn't get a contract, John, or if he loses, I actually would, and I'll probably talk about this in my Grading the Winners article. You can check at MMAJunkie.com the day after.
Cheap
is
plug.
that I could see, cheap plug indeed, I could see Martynuk being picked up, getting a phone call from the UFC even before 2020 hits, win or lose tonight, just because he actually has some decent skill set, and it's not a deep division.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, well, let's check in with our man Nolan King, who, by the way, is still on vacation, but is sending us these reports. So shout out to Nolan King for doing that. He's a big Contender Series junkie. He said, listen, undefeated heavyweights to kick off the card. Count me in. This is probably the closest fight on paper, especially being in the heavyweight division. I'm leaning Martynuk because he has faced known commodities on the regional scene, whereas Nascimento has not. The UFC needs heavies, so Martynuk will grab a UFC contract. So I think he's kind of leaning in the same direction we are, but I did find it interesting he said closest fight on paper, because to me, it's not, but the bettors certainly saw it that way as well. So, yeah. All right, heavyweights kicking things off. From there, we move on to the welterweights, a bout that I think you and I are both excited about as well. Daniel Rodriguez and Rico Farrington. Daniel Rodriguez comes in as the favorite at minus 210. Rico Farrington is the underdog at plus 175. And before we get too far into our discussion on these two fighters, the UFC folks were kind enough to share some of their video features that will be airing tonight, and this will set up that matchup for you.
A UFC contract for me, it was just a new life, a new beginning, a new flair under me. My name is Rico Farrington. I'm 29 years old. I'm trying to show Dana White the new breed of welterweights. I was born in Nassau, Bahamas. Grew up there until I was 14. After I came over here, my dad passed away. He wanted me to move over here because he wanted a better lifestyle for me and a better education. I was at this little gym called Club KO. I saw this little octagon. I saw two kids playing around, and somebody was like, oh, they're doing jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh, can I try? And little 13-year-old, 5'6", 80 pounds. It's like, hey, let's go together. And so we started rolling. Like less than a minute, he got me with an arm bar. And I was just like, what the hell is that? I was like, okay, let's go again. So I started using strength again, and like I'll hold him down, I'll pin him down, and he came again, he got me with Americana. So the next day I came back and I went to the manager. I was just like, I need to take this up. Like, can I start this? And ever since then, I just catapult. The worst thing that Daniel Rodriguez could do is try to strike with me. And I kid you not, and I guarantee he will be on the floor. I'm gonna show the MMA world a new breed of welterweights.
It's a trip to think where I came from, where I am now, to have this opportunity. I'm not gonna let this opportunity slip through my hands. My name is Daniel Rodriguez, 32 years old, fighting out of Los Angeles, California. Growing up in LA was real cool, Hispanic background, just an inner city kid, just like to get in fights. Yeah, I was headed down the wrong path. I think what changed it all for me is first having kids, second would be mixed martial arts. Learned a lot of discipline, and the more and more I begin to rise in this, the more I realize what I have to lose and what's at stake, and you know, this opportunity I have now just, you know, changed my whole life around. I think the fans are really gonna enjoy my style of fighting. You know, it's real aggressive, in your face. I'm always showing up to kick this dude's ass. You know, I'm always coming in to knock the dude out, and they could just expect that every single time. I'm here to prove that I belong in the UFC. I've been doing this for a while, I feel like the dudes I fought, you know, they're good dudes, but still I haven't met that level of competition yet, and I feel that's in the UFC.
All right, so two more guys chasing their dreams to get into the UFC. Daniel Rodriguez, on paper, I understand why he's the favorite. Very, very impressive. 8-1 professional record. Had a 7-0 amateur record before that with 5 knockouts. Of his professional wins, all of them by stoppage. 5 knockouts, 3 submissions, including an armbar, an arm triangle, and a rear naked choke, so showing some variety there. He is an Eddie Bravo purple belt. He also trained striking under Joe Schilling, who's highly respected there. So, and by the way, the lone loss that he had as a professional, a split decision. So, I mean, very, very close fight there. So Daniel Rodriguez is the favorite, and I understand why that. But I got to say, especially at the weigh-ins yesterday, seeing Rico Farrington up close, a 6'4" welterweight is phenomenal. He started his career, he's 7-2 right now. He started his career with just 1-2, but he's won 6 since. So 6-fight win streak. His opponent's record's pretty impressive, 23-13. He trains out of the MMA Masters camp, which I'm a big fan of there. He's also a BJJ purple belt, not under Eddie Bravo, but a purple belt nonetheless. And he's a 3-time ISK kickboxing champ. So I understand why Farrington's the underdog, but I'm really, really intrigued here. And you said it at the top of the show, this could be one of those nights where the dogs are barking a little bit. I'm intrigued by this matchup. What did you think when you started looking at it?
Hey, that's another tip of the hand, and I might be unloading my gun early, but so is the UFC here. Now, again, it's a different type of show, so we shouldn't kind of hold it for the same measuring stick as far as card structure goes. But as someone who has criticized card structures in the past, this honestly is a really strong start, and it is a real bravo to the matchmakers without seeing these ones happen yet, of course. I really like these first 2 fights, and this one in particular. You're right, John. Rodriguez should be the favorite for the reason. Second highest favorite on the card for whatever that's worth. That being said, he is getting bet down, and I can see why if I'm portending my pick a little bit here. I really like Rodriguez. I think his style fits this format. Not only that, John, a format that's going to be successful in the UFC, the higher levels of format that I like, and that's pressure fighting and kind of the well-roundedness that you spoke to with those accolades. He really shows that in the ring with his style. So at first I'm like, okay, I can see him keeping it at boxing range against the longer opponent. But I read the profile on Rico there, and I saw for a 6'4" guy, his favorite grappling is a single leg snatch, and I'm like, okay, of all the things you can stereotype for a tall fighter, wrestling is usually one of the last ones, right? Boxing range, maybe their head gets a little high. And wrestling, it's such a crapshoot, which is why the 6'4" John Jones is such an anomaly and so successful. Well, I watched tape on this guy, Rico, and he actually can wrestle really well. That's what impressed me most. He is still going to have some trouble at boxing range. His game, like most pros, isn't as good on bottom as it is from top, right. but he looks like he knows what he's doing down there. So yeah, I think Rico is a live dog, but we haven't seen him in 2 years, so it's tough.
I agree. All right, well, listen, let's get your pick. As you said, I think this one on paper, some good opportunities because, as you said, you don't have to finish fights. You don't have to, but I think it helps. And Dana said, listen, you don't have to finish. I just want to see full things out of you, but it definitely helps. I think this is the type of fight that looks like on paper it should provide us a finish. What do you think? Are you gonna roll it out on the underdog, or are you sticking with the favorite?
I'm actually going to roll it out on the underdog, and here's why. Both guys are southpaws, John, and like I say, the southpaw versus southpaw matchup, we'll see some southpaws tonight, but this is a rare southpaw versus southpaw matchup. It makes the striking kind of really difficult, and Rico really likes that 1-2 shot. More importantly, he's already been in there with southpaws. Both guys have been in bad positions, prevailed and won fights, which I like to see, especially Rodriguez, but Rico, man, he's already faced 2 southpaws. You said MMA Masters, John. I got to imagine he's a training partner in Mutanch, another southpaw, UFC level middleweight. I'm gonna bet that he likes this matchup a little more, or is more comfortable. Give me the dog here.
I like it. I'm intrigued by this one. All right, let's check in with our man Nolan King. He said, I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised the UFC chose Farrington for this season. Rodriguez, on the other hand, should have been a shoe-in. A 6'4" welterweight. Farrington is rangy, but I expect Rodriguez to get inside him and eventually score a TKO to earn a UFC contract. So he's sticking with the chalk there, understandably so, though. Rodriguez is an impressive prospect. Yeah. All right, from there we move on to the women's flyweight division. Traci Cortez with Maria, and I apologize if I get this wrong, but I've been told it's Agapova. I was going with Agapova, but I was told it's Agapova. So, but a women's flyweight matchup, very interesting here. Maria is fighting out of Kazakhstan. She's got a 6-0 record. Traci Cortez 5-1. She's gotten a little bit of fanfare kind of early in her career, but she did not have an easy time making weight. Traci Cortez, a 3-time Invicta FC veteran. She's 2-1 in those. She lost her pro debut. She's won 5 since, but she struggled to make weight. She had to get the extra hour. You get 60 minutes, not 2 hours here in the Contender Series because it's only 5 fights. She came in at the very end of that. Nevada commission rules allow you to get an extra hour as long as you're approved. The doctors did say yes, she's okay. She was sweating. She looked okay. She looked healthy enough. We'll say never great, but healthy enough. she came in and she made weight. So I think that's important. I mean, that probably does show some character because we've already seen this year once. I mean, you miss weight, and Dana has said you're pretty much probably not eligible no matter how good you look. So she made weight. That's important. Now she's fighting Maria, again, out of Kazakhstan. 2 knockout wins and 2 submission wins in her perfect 6-0 record, an armbar and a rear naked choke. And interesting, in talking about the odds, Traci Cortez opened as an underdog, has the rough weigh-in, but the money continued to pour in on her, and now it's kind of a pick-em, or maybe she's even a slight favorite depending on the house you're using. So give us your take as you were starting to look into this one, Dan.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I'm on a different island too. I mean, again, we're all doing kind of invisible math, even the professionals from the odds makers, broadcasters covering this to ourselves for this preview show. So you're going to have varying answers, varying opinions. That's what makes it so fun. But yeah, this one really surprised me. Now, the weigh-in maybe not so much. Like I was saying to you earlier, John, I actually think if we're splitting hairs, it's a better sign if a fighter has enough energy to recorrect and go back and hit the scales with vigor for the second time, than opposed to calling it quits, because then you really got to speculate what went wrong. Was this a really bad cut that we have to worry about? But if you look at Cortez's fighting style, it's not surprising. She's really feisty. She's got a lot of spirit, John. There's a lot of volume out there, but volume, it comes with a two-way street. That two-way street can come right back at you in the form of counters. I will be interested to see, if the Akhmat product, can take advantage of that. Agapova, I always want to say Sharapova. That's why. Is that why we're saying
like
that?
A tennis player,
Sharapova, right. But the Akhmat product, she's picked up a lot of wrestling from her counterparts there. Again, you may not see, as many females come from that camp, but you got to imagine she's got high-quality training partners that's rubbing off on her, and you see that in her style here. Now, I don't know if it's going to be something to maybe produce a finish, especially against Cortez from what I've seen of her, but I could see a grinding affair, if Cortez can't get off, a grinding affair in Agapova's favor. Is that what we're saying?
That's why I'm going with
okay,
Maria.
All right,
That's why I'm going with Maria.
Maria, I once met a girl named Maria.
Oh, wow, we're going there.
We're going
there. All right, let's move on. No, listen, with Traci, I will say this. Like I said, she's gotten a little bit of fanfare. She's fought for Invicta. She's fought for Combate as well. So, I mean, she's fought for some big organizations on the regional scene, which is good. So I think she's comfortable. I will say, I mean, she didn't look horrible to me even when she made weight the second time. So she looked like she was still healthy. I mean, it was obvious that she wasn't having fun, but she did look like she was okay. Not to the point where I'm actually concerned, that, oh my gosh, what does she have in the tank? But it was cool. She got off the scale and her team was cheering for her. It's just in a little tiny ballroom in a little hotel over here. It's not the big fanfare. So it's just her team clapping. And she sits down in a chair and she's like, I told you all, I don't effing quit. Although she didn't censor herself. And I was like, hey, I like that feistiness. I dig it. So, all right, you got to lay it down. I guess if you like Cortez, you hope that you jumped on it early before it got bet down. Yep. But what's your play here, Dan? Who do you think takes it?
I think it's going to make for a better show and more of a chance of this matchup producing a contract if Cortez wins. I don't blame the money coming in on her, although I do scratch my head of it coming in after the weigh-in, despite the points, the counterpoints we just brought up. I'll actually go with Maria, the Team Akhmat product there, to grind this one out. So.
Sounds good. All right, let's check in with Nolan King. This was the notes he sent me. He said Traci Cortez is the full package. She's exciting, an impressive fighter both physically and mentally, and popular on social media. That said, I think her popularity is swaying the line here a little bit. Interesting, especially knowing that she started as a dog. I expect Agapova to win this fight, likely by decision. And I feel confident in saying that, he added. So he's got Maria by decision there. So we'll see. It's I think another intriguing matchup. Like I said, 3 fights in, I feel like there's some really good storylines in all these. All right, we move on to our co-main event, if you will, a featherweight matchup between Elon Cruz and Stephen Wynn. Elon comes in at plus 150. Stephen Wynn minus 170, the favorite. And we had a little video of Sean Shelby, the UFC matchmaker, talking about this matchup. So let's hear what he had to say about this fight before we get into our notes.
Steve's a promising up-and-coming prospect going all the way back to his amateur days. He's never been on a stage this big, and he's never fought a guy this tough. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the situation. Cruz has a bit of an unorthodox style. He's just such a lanky guy for the weight class, and he's tough to deal with. He's got weird stances. He throws from weird angles. It's proven to be a problem for his opponents up to this point.
All right, so Cruz comes to us with a 7-2 record, 1 knockout, 2 submissions on those. He does have a 3-fight winning streak, so not the most stellar record on paper, but again, he is the favorite coming in here, or excuse me, the underdog coming in here, and I think that's why. Stephen Nguyen, though, I'm really intrigued by this, and it's going to be obvious here in a second. He's undefeated, which I always like the undefeated record, but he's a Fortis MMA product. So even though he's originally from Kansas, he now lives and trains in Dallas, which is my hometown. So I'm always a little bit biased towards those fighters, but he's been doing Taekwondo and karate since he was 5 years old. 2 of his wins are by knockout, 3 are by submission, so a lot of finishes early on. Like I said, I'm partial to the Fortis MMA products, but we did get a little clip of his teammate Steven Ocho Peterson talking about what makes Nguyen so tough.
In training, every round's tough with Stephen Nguyen. He's very well-rounded. He has really good stand-up, good takedown defense. When you take him down, he's good off his back. And, when you teach him something, the next time he doesn't make the same mistake. So he's learning quickly and improving every day.
All right, so no surprise, obviously, the teammate. Glowing praise there for Steve Nguyen. But listen, Safe Soda has had some great things to say about him as well. Again, undefeated product. I like those 0 records. So give me an idea as you were starting to break this down, as you were looking at this one. Is Nguyen the clear favorite? Is he the clear play, or are there some things that Cruz does that could make this problematic?
Yeah, tipping my hand, I'm actually going with my first favorite tonight, John. So I'm on the odds makers and public side for what that's worth. And you just reminded me, we get to hear some Coach Safe corner in tonight. We get to hear some he will threaten his fighters harder than any of his fighters' opponents, and I love it.
I think he tries to keep it a little bit, because it's so quiet in here that I think he tries to mute it just a little bit, but it is amazing. You don't even have to put a microphone on him to hear him. His cornering is fun. I guarantee you that'll get brought up in the little pop-up box on the ESPN Plus stream tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to be wishing for that. But it was important. Of course, you said that Steve Peterson, he's a teammate. He's going to pump him up. But Steven Peterson has also faced a lot of southpaws as well. Of course, Cruz is a southpaw himself, and he's even got another, southpaws in the gym like Jeff Neal, who, granted, they're apart by 2 weight classes, but if you look at their height from, Jeff Neal's opponent to Nico Price to Nguyen's opponent tonight, they're actually very comparable. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were getting some rounds too. Now, on the other hand, I also like southpaws, so I'm going to have some love for Cruz, but Cruz's path here, I don't believe, is on the feet. I think he could have a slight grappling advantage, especially if he gets into scrambles here. So I think that's where Cruz is really going to want to get this fight. That's where he comes alive.
Yeah, Cruz, it's funny, everybody at this point is well-rounded. I mean, you train everything. This is not the day of specialty where you just do one thing, but Cruz did start out as a wrestler. That's what got him into MMA, whereas Nguyen did start out doing karate and Taekwondo. So you don't want to boil it down to straight striker versus grappler matchup. Right. But I think you're right. That would be what Cruz is want to do. So I think that's probably going to be his strategy going in. You tipped your hand, but you're going with the favorite here. Are you sensing the finish? Are you sensing the contract? Do you feel like he's UFC ready? Is this early? Give me your take on all that.
I like him here. I just think it's going to be a tough fight. Cruz doesn't seem like he's a pushover in the slightest, and having that wrestling in your back pocket when you do get hurt, we see the guys go and change levels. You don't really have to get that far to get to the clinch or push a guy to the cage. Again, we're operating in the smaller cage, which is fun. Mm-hmm. But if you also want to push to the cage and make it that kind of a fight, if you have to as a last resort, you can also see that. So we're going to see, I think, Nguyen tested in many ways here, even in a victory. Even if should he go to the finish line, John? I doubt he'll be cruising there.
Oh, you went there. Hilarious. All right, let's check in with Nolan King. He said, listen, this is a great fight. While Nguyen hasn't fought the level of competition that Cruz has, I expect him to win this fight inside the distance. He's flown grossly under the radar on his way up the ladder. That will change when Nguyen earns himself a UFC contract. So he's siding with the favorite there
contract
as well.
Winner there too. He's calling. All right.
And calling for a contract. All right, that takes us up to what is our main event, our featured fight of the evening. It is still 3 rounds. It's not like a UFC contract or a UFC card, I should say, just 3 rounds. But I think this is a very, very intriguing fight as well. A wide gap in the betting spreads. It's Alexa Kamer versus Fabio Cherant. Alexa is a minus 390 favorite, big time favorite. Cherant is the underdog, and the UFC again was kind enough to share their video packaging that you'll see during the broadcast tonight to set up this fight and take a look at these 2 guys. I think you'll be as impressed as we are.
My name is Alexa Kamer, fight out of Strong Style Mixed Martial Arts, and I plan on being a UFC champion. I'm 4-0 as a professional MMA fighter, all 4 knockouts. I'm a 3-time Golden Glove champion. And making a living out of something I love to do is a dream of mine. I eat, I sleep, I breathe MMA. I signed up at Strong Style Mixed Martial Arts when I was 16 years old, saw the cage. I saw Stipe, I saw a lot of my now current teammates training, and I just wanted to try it. Once you get that first win, once you start training, you make it like a second family from your gym. There's no turning back, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Stipe really gets me ready for anything coming up in the cage. He's very good at guiding me and telling me what to do and showing me what I do wrong and what I do right. And I think everybody in the light heavyweight division should be worried about me. Doesn't matter what kind of fight style you come at me with. Don't back down from a fight. If you want to stand up, I'll stand up. If you want to go to the ground, I'll go to the ground. But this only ends one way, with me getting my hand raised.
My name is Fabio Charant. I'm 24 years old. I train out of Boston, Massachusetts. My childhood growing up, it was pretty tough, Came from a very abusive family, bouncing around from family member to family members' houses, getting beat all the time. I ran away from home at the age of 8, and I've been in foster care since then. Once I got into foster care, it was a tough transition. I was kind of like a really troubled kid, I was stealing, lying, getting in trouble because I was like stuck in survival mode from before. When my dad gave me the ultimatum and was like, look, I've been sticking my neck out trying to save you from your past. If you're not gonna take my help, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to put in my 30 days notice. And right there when he said that to me, that's when everything kicked in, and I was just like, damn, maybe this guy really cares about me. If it wasn't for him, I'd probably be in a very bad place. I could have gone down any path. I could have turned to drugs. I could have turned to gang violence, doing crazy stuff, dropped out of high school, God knows what else. But I didn't. I kept on fighting, and I'm still fighting till this day. I've always wanted to be that kid to push through. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this, to show people that if you're passionate about it, run with it, go do it, because you never know what's gonna happen. If I have to be uncomfortable for the next 3 years, trying to pursue something that I'm passionate about, screw it, I'm gonna do it. There's a lot of young, hungry fighters going for the same goal, so I gotta make sure I put a stamp on my fight and make sure that Dana, the people there, people watching are like, wow, that was crazy.
Everything's on the line. There's no backup plan. This is it. I'm gonna do whatever it takes, and I will get my hand raised.
I gotta bring my A game, go out there, cool, calm, collected, make sure I come out with a stunning victory.
All right, so that is our featured matchup. Alexa, 3-time Gold Gloves winner, as he said. He's been at Strong Style since he was 16. Both these guys have 4-0 records, but they're very different 4-0 records, right? Alexa, all 4 wins by knockout, 3 first-round finishes. Neither one of them has fought really developed competition, but Alexa's opponents have a combined record of 7-2, whereas Fabio, his combined opponents record's 2-9. So a little bit of a red flag there that he hasn't really fought anybody. That doesn't mean he's not good. He just hasn't. He's beat the people he's supposed to beat, but we just haven't seen him really tested. And all 4 of his wins, whereas Alexa, all 4 by knockout, all 4 of Fabio's are by submissions, 2 rear naked chokes, 2 guillotines, 3 of those in the first round as well. So a lot of first round finishes between these guys as well. Interesting though, as you said, a big wagering spread in the odds here. Dan, Tom, what do you think about this matchup?
The funny thing about it being the biggest spread in the wagering odds is there's kind of a lot of invisible math on this one too. A lot of unknowns, but people seem to be heavily hitting camera anyways. Now again, we're talking about gyms. You got to kind of do that deduction there. Strong Style, they produce a certain type of fighter, and they produce it well though. Might be boxing, wrestling, top control, some clinch, dirty boxing, and ground and pound, but they do all those facets really well. You don't see too much of the clinch or ground and pound, or at least I haven't from Camor, but his boxing's really nice. He goes to the body, which I'm a big fan of, and sets it up there. His opponent, his opponent says he's going to stand with them, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think Charant's, his best shots are on the ground, or his best chance, I should say, is on the ground. He's saying that he wants to stand, but I don't know how much of that, John, is because he knows the format that he's on. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to get that fight to the ground. It's hard to go against the chalk here. I've been going against a lot of dogs tonight, but it's hard to go against the chalk here.
You bring up an interesting point there, the format, right? I mean, this is your opportunity to get into the UFC. Yeah. And so, you probably do want to take some risks. You probably want to try some things. You definitely don't want to play it safe. But, yeah, I hope that maybe is just a little bit of gamesmanship on Fabio's part, because I don't think it would be wise for him. I mean, I'm not trying to say he can't compete. Anything can happen in a mixed martial arts contest, but it just seems like if you have an easier path to victory, you should follow that, even if it's on Dana White's Contender Series. Dana likes submissions too. That's a finish, you know. So we'll see. We'll see if it was bluffing. All right. Well, you lean there. You say you're probably going chalk. Is that the play you're making?
Yeah, you know, Cameron, I think there's going to be a bit of size difference between them. And then again, you look at his training partners from, of course, the heavyweight champ Stipe Miocic at the top level. So I believe, I'm sorry if I'm getting this name wrong, but the Tough 28 gentleman, I believe his name was Jeff Hughes, who's been doing pretty decent and then chipping away at the other end of the heavyweight ladder. So he's got a lot of size that's probably getting him ready for this fight.
No question about it. All right, well, check in one last time with Nolan King, and he said not much pro tape exists on Sharon, but I've been lucky enough to be in the building for all 4 of his fights. His foundation is there, but I think he's still in the early development phase of his career. I expect Kamer to win this fight inside the distance, and if he does, he'll earn a UFC contract. So a lot of hype around Alexa, to say the least, and he could be well destined to get a UFC contract. Like I said, we've seen as many as 5 given out at times this season, so we'll see. It's going to be a fun card, I think. You know, we've laid it out. I think if for nothing else, I think we're going to have some fun fights.
Yeah, it's hard. The last couple weeks have been really good, but this may be my most excited before the fights actually happen, for what that's worth, that I've been since season 3 started.
I agree. All right, well, listen, it's Dana White's Contender Series. This is week 6 of the 3rd season. It happens right behind us in the gym inside the UFC Apex here. We appreciate you joining us for the preview. We got to run and get in our seats and watch the fights. Dan Tom will have a recap tomorrow with him grading the winners, and of course we'll have photos, recap, all that stuff tonight as soon as it happens. Thanks for joining us.
It's nothing personal. I have to go through him to get to where I want to be and to what I want to do and to the goals that I have set for the future.
Ending this fight in spectacular fashion is everything that I need, everything that I want, and everything that I've already been doing in my career. My plan is to go in there, beat this guy up, and get the contract.
Making a statement is the only way to win a contract, so I got to make sure I put a stamp on my fight.
The UFC contract would mean the world to me. Dana, I'm an exciting fighter. Don't blink, because you don't want to miss what I got coming.
You are watching the world's most intense job interview. It's Dana White's Contender Series.
Future stars are vying for that UFC contract. They have a chance, literally, to change their lives forever.
After the long hours in the gym. After the years of grueling training.
What determination they have.
After a lifetime pursuing hopes and dreams. There comes the moment where a contender can make dreams come true. 100 fighters.
Welcome to the Contender Series. These fighters know what gets them to the big show.
10 nights.
One shot and it is over. Wow.
Oh, he's out.
That's it. Action-packed.
One shot to impress the boss and earn a UFC contract. This is Dana White's Contender Series.